Good evening, everyone. Welcome to The Way It Is Naturally. I'm your host, Perry Larrabee, and we will be back in a moment. We're going to talk about the ramifications of steroid use, the widespread, basically epidemic use of steroids, and we're going to get into all the ins and outs of that in just a moment. Be right back. Welcome back, everyone. Once again, my name is Perry Larrabee, and I am the CEO of Both Ears Training and the host of this show. We air every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 6 o'clock Mountain Time, and we get into an array of subjects, always talking from the point of view as a natural trainer, a natural bodybuilder, and a natural fitness athlete. Before we get into anything, I'll remind you now, or re-remind you at the end of the broadcast, that tomorrow is that the 11th of November is coming up very soon, and please keep that in mind and let's not forget. Okay. Also, I'm hoping that everybody is still allowed to train. I'm seeing a lot of negative comments out there right now. It looks like, many gyms are starting to get shut down, which is not a good thing. It's a very sad state to be in, and I don't agree with what they're doing to many of the gym goers, so to speak. I don't believe they're going to make any great strides by shutting down the gyms, but hopefully that's not happening to you, and you'll be able to continue on your training. But, as I made mention in the previous broadcast, please start to make alternative measures if you can afford it. Pick up a little bit of equipment, make sure that you're not left out in the cold, because training to many of us is very important. It's very important mentally, which can definitely have an impact on us physically. So, tonight's subject, the widespread use, basically epidemic use of anabolic steroids or performance-enhancing drugs, because let's be frank about everything. Everything is not steroids, but steroids are definitely the largest percentage of drug use in sport. And we're just going to pertain ourselves to bodybuilding fitness. It's in pretty much every sport you can think of, but I'm going to deal with what I know and what the people who are listening to me are interested in. That is bodybuilding, fitness, weight loss, general physical output. Okay, we have definitely something that would be considered. It's been pandemic for years, to be honest with you, every bit as much as the other current pandemic. The only problem is, it's killing people, but not quite at the same rate, thankfully. But there are definitely lots of problems. But what I see as the biggest problem is how things are being handled. I don't know about every gym that you go into, but I mean, it happens right from the hardcore gyms to the fluff gyms, right to the home gyms. We have people taking anabolics or different other types of PEDS, basically the acronym for performance enhancing drugs, to better themselves for non-sportive reasons. What do I mean by that? Well, I mean, years ago, and not even necessarily all the way back when I started training, which is over 43 years ago, but I mean, at the point where I started training, people, it was very rare to go to a bar or a restaurant or something and see anybody with any type of physique, or certainly, above average in size, other than football players and that, but they weren't bodybuilders. They were a whole different animal. I mean, you saw the odd Olympic lifter that might have been, better built than average, that type of thing, but it was still rare. Now, you're seeing so much of it all over the place, and you might say, well, that's a good thing. Well, it's not a good thing, because nobody is doing it naturally. That's the whole problem. There is such a small percentage of people that are getting on the bandwagon now that are doing this naturally. So what are they doing? They're turning to drugs. And what is the problem with that? Well, the problem with that is manyfold. Okay. First of all, just to state a few things off the top of your head, there's ramifications to any type of a medication. This is a medication. For those that aren't aware, these are drugs developed for medical purposes. Sports just happen to take it like it takes so many other things and abuse it. Okay, and therefore it has side effects. Side effects happen to all types of drugs, not just anabolic steroids. Okay, so it's inevitable. So people voluntarily taking something with known side effects for no other reason but pure vanity, because that's what it is. It's about how they look. It's not even how physically fit they are or how healthy they are, because it makes them less fit, less healthy. Okay, and I can cite you countless examples of that online, in the gym, constantly, on stage. It's rather horrendous, to be quite honest with you. What do I see as one of the biggest problems? The biggest problem I see is that the media, and the media I mean by the social media, because the mainstream media, although you'll see the odd clip about it here and there, they don't really get into much detail, to be honest with you, and and that's probably where I would prefer it stay. But in the case of social media, it's talked about like it was, going for a Subway sandwich or something. There's no real hint of the severity of the actions that you're taking. And that's a problem on two different levels. It's a problem on the physiological level, and it's also a problem on the moral level. People, for starters, do many people have they even totally forgotten that the use of any type of medication through non-prescriptive avenues, which will basically encompass 95% of that population, okay? And we're talking about TRT, but even TRT has its problems, okay? But all the others are done through quack doctors or no doctors at all. They're done through black market drugs, which have absolutely no protocols in place, no safety measures, no nothing, okay? And just like young people are dying, for example, from overdoses of ecstasy and things like that, well, guess what? Do you think the stuff that they're cooking up in basements and garages is any different? No, it's not, okay? Then there's also the case of the people that are taking stuff, okay, and they have known nothing about training whatsoever. So where's the problem in that? Well, the problem here is you take in drugs, and I've gone on record as saying, yeah, you can actually, create development without doing any physical training at all. There's been studies done on it. Are you going to create a Mr. Olympia physique without doing any training? No, you're not. It's just saying that you can actually develop lean muscle tissue by just taking certain types of steroids, because some of them are very potent, okay, and without doing any type of resistance training whatsoever. But, okay, so anyways, the problem is that people are not learning anything about training whatsoever. So many of them are taking drugs, they know nothing about training, and they're not getting the results they wanted. So where's the next step, and what's the next problem there? Two things. First of all, chances are they're going to start escalating their dosages or their combinations, okay? Or the other side of the coin, they're going to figure that they're never going to achieve, this certain look that they want, so they stop training whatsoever. So basically they've, thwarted the whole idea of, creating the best them that they could ever create, okay? They're now under the impression that you can never develop a physique without the use of drugs. And why? Because everybody else is using them, and many of them, a large population, is actually using them and then claiming to be natural in the process. So that's another problem. That's another issue, especially from a moral point of view, but also from, just from, what type of an impact that has on the up-and-comers, whether it be, people that are really want to get entrenched in the sport, or the people who just want to get into better shape. Because when you have people squawking on about how natural they are, and yet they haven't been natural a day in their life, or maybe they were natural for a few months, okay, and they're going on about how natural they are, and a year and a half later, they look like they've dropped on 40 or 50 pounds of rock hard muscle. Well, first of all, they're just out and out narcissistic liars. Sorry if that offends anybody, but that's what you are. You're a narcissistic liar, okay? And that's the problem. It's funny when I think about that. It's like one of the first things when I got into this sport 43 years ago, that's all people thought that bodybuilders were, just a bunch of narcissists. But that's what the up-and-coming group were. Even back in my day, and when guys were using drugs, I was totally unaware they were using drugs. I was very naive. I never believed for many years at the beginning of my training that anybody took drugs. I just thought, people tried to tell me they did, and I didn't believe them. Because I'm always a believer that you can do anything you want to do, but it takes hard work. Okay? Anyways, back then, they weren't so exploitive, and they weren't so, so they were actually a very withdrawn crowd. Were they shy? Not a lot of them. Some of them were, some weren't. But what they were is they stayed within their little circles. Okay? It was very much an underground sport. Okay? And that's when it was good. There was lots of camaraderie. There was lots of, it was a community unto itself. Okay, so whether I don't have a lot of respect for the whole anybody that's gone down that route. I don't have a respect for them as bodybuilders because that's not bodybuilding to me, and I am not going to apologize for being a purist because that's what I am. I believe in pure bodybuilding, pure training. Okay. Does it mean I don't think any of them ever trained hard? Of course it doesn't. Many of them trained hard. Not all of them. Many of them did. Okay. Many of them, lived the lifestyle far more than what some of these, people are doing nowadays. People nowadays are coming and going like there's no tomorrow. But back in those days, many of those people, that was a lifestyle they took on forever. And the few of them are still around. And they're still around because some of them didn't take anything. And some of them took small amounts. There are kids these days going to the gym with not an ounce of training, taking more than some of these guys were taking at the pinnacle of their notoriety. That should scare you right there. Okay, so what do I see as the biggest tragedy in all this? The biggest tragedy in all this is that many people, first of all, many people are going to lose their lives. Many people are going to develop sicknesses they needn't have ever had. Okay? They're going to, run into issues. They're already, long before you get sick, you're already creating issues in your life. Because taking any type of performance-enhancing drug does things to you psychologically. And of course, you're not going to be aware of it because it's a part of an addiction. And most addicts aren't aware of their actual condition. It takes being confronted, or coming to almost maybe to their end of their rope, or almost, on their deathbed before they realize just what they've done. Okay? It's no different with anabolics, but people seem to treat these drugs like there's something different. Like anabolics aren't like that. That's not, all they do is put muscle on. No, they don't. They actually alter your endocrine system. They put immense burdens on your heart, your liver, and your kidney. They change, the drugs that they're coming out with now, or for the last, they've been out with now for the last 15, 20 years, but they're getting more intense. But the use of human growth hormone and insulin is now, you're seeing organ enlargement. You've always seen, when GH came along, that's when you started to see bone growth or bone regeneration. Because that's what it was derived for, okay? There's so many side effects that people don't even, they don't even kind of put two and two together. Milder stuff like, terrible skin. If you go and see a lot of bodybuilders, in the epitome of their cycles, their skin is like just a mass of pimples. And that's both male and female. It's disgusting. And for some reason, they're okay with that. They're out after, which is kind of a hypocrisy, is it not? Because they're out after this beautiful look, but if they actually had to take a hard look at themselves, they'd just see how ugly it really is. Okay. There's even more intense issues when it comes to the gender discrepancy. I don't understand how a woman can you have to be so overwrought with self-loathing or whatever the case might be to want to do this to yourself. But do they even realize that you're putting a hormone into your body that was never meant to be in your body? In the case of men, because most anabolics are derivatives of testosterone, and testosterone is mainly a male hormone. Small amounts in most females. There's the odd, anomaly, for example, but in pretty much 100% of the cases, women have very, very low levels of testosterone. So when you start taking larger quantities of testosterone into a female, I mean, it boggles my mind to me how a woman would ever want to do that to herself. I mean, is on the lower end of the scale, they'll all, develop facial hair. You can definitely get if they get into human growth hormone, which many of them do, they get into things like, changing of their actual facial structure, very hardened look to them. That has nothing to do with contest diet. Don't get the two confused, okay? Genitalia enlargement, yeah, these are all real things. But my thing is, in the case of women in particular, why, like men, I won't say there's a rationalization about it. Men feeling weak or inferior, or they want to, this machoism. I don't even know if that's really the driving force in men, to be honest with you. I think as a society in general, people are just totally insecure. They've let the media determine what is going to make them happy. And the media is being run by a bunch of nincompoops. Really. They're being run by multinational companies that are putting out crap to sell to people to make them bigger, stronger, faster, and 99% of it is bullshit. Really, it's bullshit. They don't work. I hate to even, I'm sure if I took 10 minutes and did some Google research, I could find out just, how much money is actually in that industry, but in the industry of looking good from the perspective of things like supplements and stuff like that, not even getting into drug use, it's literally in probably the trillions of dollars. That's what that industry is, and it's all built on vanity. I've gone on record of telling people that you can compete, you can train hard and compete and win and not take a single supplement. I know you can because I've done it. And I've done it repeatedly. I didn't just do it once. I went over 20 some years without taking so much as a protein drink. The only reason I even use protein now is because of the illness that I suffered, and I was having a hard time putting any body weight back on. I won't go into any real detail in there, but I had gone from 230 pounds to 169 pounds, and I couldn't put an ounce on. I wasn't able to eat. I had problems digestively, and I needed something that was going to get my system going. I just couldn't get past the idea of eating anymore. So other than that, I still would approach it without taking any type of supplementation. And there's going to be those out there that say, oh, you need to have that. No, you don't need anything, actually. You don't need fancy gyms. You don't need fancy equipment. You don't need fancy drinks or fancy supplements. The stuff that is going to cater to, can you benefit from some of that? Sure you can, okay? I don't want to get too much off topic here, but that is for, the super elite. When you're trying, to me, and if you were going to go natural and you want to have every possibility of being the best you as possible, then I can see it. Other than that, what? To just go out and look good at the beach or look good at the bar? If you can't do that without heavy supplementation, then you know what? You're not training hard enough. And so you're wasting your time anyway. You're wasting your time, you're wasting your money. So you got to make the decision to be committed to what you're going to do and stop making excuses. And when you're taking drugs, that's an excuse. Let's get into some other, I don't understand it. People aren't just taking drugs to develop size. The reason why we're getting, really large number of severe problems, including deaths, is the combination of things that people are taking. It's not unusual for people these days to be taking combinations of 6, 7, 8 drugs in a preparation for a show. And even for women, taking several. Women in bikini shows are taking anabolic steroids and cutting agents to get themselves lean. Isn't that just sad? That's sad. I've dated some beautiful women in my life and seen, tons of beautiful women, whatever. I mean, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. Women are just, they're beautiful as they are. They don't need anything extra. The media, I feel bad because the media is convinced them they need to be this something certain way in order for people to be desirable or to be worth something. But they don't need to be, but they've been convinced they need to be. So they're willing to go out there and put male hormones in their body. They're willing to take these agents because they can't seem to get, rid of a certain fat in certain areas, which genetically women are prone to because that's the way God designed them. Body fat in those areas was for a reason. People, for the people that aren't believers, and that's another thing, I always bring up, I never walk away from the idea that I answer to my Lord and Savior all the time. I believe in God and I believe in Jesus Christ. And our bodies are gifts from them. And we need to treat them as such. And the fact is, God didn't make any mistakes. We made mistakes. God doesn't make mistakes. Okay? Our bodies are designed to work a certain way, and the fact that we think that we can control them better and make them work more efficiently than He ever could is absolutely a disgraceful thought in itself. And I know people in the Christian community that are out and out hypocrites, claiming to be, brothers in Christ and all that, and yet been using anabolics almost their whole life. So, I don't cohort with those type of people. I don't hate anybody, but I believe in being 100% walking the walk and talking the talk. And it doesn't mean that, I'm sitting here and I've always done everything right. That's not what it means. Excuse me, I'm just going to get a drink of coffee here. So, where are things going? This is the part that really worries me the most. We're at are we at the pinnacle of drug use? That's the sad part. I don't even think we're even close. Because as long as narcissism runs rampant, people are always going to be learning or wanting to find that other cutting edge. And basically that means no matter what, cheating is a go in these days. It's the mentality, right? So it doesn't matter what it is. If somebody offered anything, I can tell you that the people that are already taking most of the anabolics now, there's not anything that can be put in front of them that they wouldn't touch. I wish I could remember the name of this study, but it was brought up in an article I read, and I'm going to post somewhere, repost an article that was I had read on all the, what is it called? Actually, I brought it up here. Is it? Yeah. There's maybe I can put the link in there. I'm gonna see if I can copy that and put this in here for anybody. What do I want to do here? Just give me a second. For anybody who has a chance, I can copy this and I can put it in my comment section here. Go to this article, and it talks in detail about anabolics. And not only that, it talks, let me get that up there. There you go. Talks about numerous bodybuilders that have passed away. And keep in mind that when it's talking, it's only talking about the ones of notoriety. These are people that most people have heard of or seen or even competed against or with. That doesn't take into account all the John Does and Jane Does in the world today that are using, in many cases, more drugs than these people were even taking. And they're dying too, but you don't hear about them. Then there's, the thousands that are getting sick and illnesses and, having to have liver transplants and kidney transplants and heart transplants. And, and then the other smaller stuff. Smaller is a relative term, The problem being that, drugs have definitely physiological side effects, okay? And, and they can also lead to, body dysmorphia, okay? There's no two ways about it. Fact is, you can never, once you start on that train, many people do not have the ability to see things in perspective. So no matter what they take, they're never going to be good enough or big enough or cut enough or whatever the case might be. And that's, Aaron, where lies the problem. But, venturing back to that clip or anyways, that whatever it is I just cut and paste. People were asked, these are all athletes, upper level athletes, I do believe, and they were all asked the same question. And that was, if you could take a certain pill and it would guarantee you to make you the best in your field right now, but it also guaranteed that in 5 years from now, you'd be dead, would you take it? And over 50% of that population said yes. And I want you to just think about that for a minute. Is that really what people are thinking about, the gift they were given of life? Do you not take into account what happens to the people around you that you leave, or that even if you don't die, cause yourself major problems? Many of you have kids and grandkids, brothers, sisters, friends, co-workers. We don't live in a bubble. We live in amongst other people, and we share our life with those people, and it's intertwined with those people. But the problem is, the more that this happens, the worse it gets. I don't see this going away anywhere soon, and maybe never. But I can tell you one thing, unless more people start jumping on the natural bandwagon and start supporting people who are, pushing the natural platforms and the natural associations, how do you expect it to ever get better? It'll never get better. The old saying, if you're not part of the solution, then you are part of the problem. Okay? So I'm urging you, each and every one of you, to be part of the solution. How do you do that? You start supporting, stop going to these channels that are pushing, drug abuse and drug use in both male and female. It's ridiculous. Just drop out of those groups. Get out of those groups. Okay? Start supporting the natural groups. I have one. I have 2 or 3 different groups, but I have one specific for natural trainers. Okay? There's other people as well. Go to people when you want to look for your programs. Don't go to people that do drugs. First of all, they don't know, pardon my language, they don't know shit about training naturally. Okay? They can say that it all applies, but it doesn't apply. Okay? Many of them have known nothing about real natural training, but they got a few muscles from taking some drugs, and now they're teaching other people. And almost guaranteed they're going to, steer them down the road of taking drugs. Your best equipment for staying away from that is just to stay away from that completely. Okay? Start utilizing natural trainers. Go to natural websites. You have to support it or it doesn't grow. It's as simple as that. The natural movement has always struggled. And the funny thing is, people think it's just something of the last number of years. There was a natural movement, probably the first time I saw it being pushed, maybe 2 years after I started training, when I was 19. Chet Yorton had a magazine out, I do believe it was called Natural Physique or something like that. And, it only got to last, I don't even know if it even lasted a year. People just weren't supporting it. And I didn't understand, because I went out and got all the magazines. I bought it. I bought every issue they ever put out. Okay? So the thing is, if you want to support, if you want to see something grow and you want to see a bad or cancerous thing like the use of anabolic steroids and cutting agents and every other thing you can think of, if you wanted to, be stifled or slowed down or, abolished completely, it's up to you. It's up to you to not support that crap, and all the more immoral behavior that's surrounded around that. You just look into the Facebook groups. It's disgusting. It's not about drug use and abuse. It's almost like pornography. And all that mentality ties in together. Okay? Having a healthy outlook to life, whether it be in relationships, training your body, making yourself healthier, having a better quality of life, is completely secondary. And even though many of these groups have right in their title either fitness or health or whatever, it has nothing to do with fitness, it has nothing to do with health. Anyways, that's all I'm going to say on the subject for tonight. I hope I get through to, if I get through to at least one person and convince them not to take anabolics, and I've done my job. And that's in effect what I'm here for. I'm here to steer people towards natural training and to tell them that it's worth every moment that you put in the gym. And I can't guarantee you it's going to give you a longer life, but it's going to give you a better quality of life. That I can guarantee you. And it'll be less expensive. Because if you don't think drugs cost you money, you're in for a rude awakening, especially if you're one of these people that actually thinks about competing and wants to go at it seriously. We're talking a lot of money, folks. And many people who go down that road, they don't even have any genetic potential for it. So it's money wasted. We're talking about tens of thousands of dollars here. Okay. Anyways, so I'm going to keep going to the groups, and I'm going to keep, spilling my message out there for natural training. And I'm hoping that you'll support me in my effort, support me in my YouTube channel, Bull Fierce Training, like and subscribe. Go to my Facebook page, also Bull Fierce Training. You can also get a hold of me on Twitter and Instagram. Go to my website, bull-fiercetraining.com. Check out what I have to offer. I have training programs online. I have my facility, which is going to be opening here, hopefully right at the very beginning of the year, at the end of this year. Either way, it depends how things go. Hopefully, no more restrictions are going to be put upon us here in the Edmonton area anyways. I have 2 books coming out no later than by the spring. One is going to be an autobiography on a very interesting read on life, it's more about perseverance, but it's also going to be about, how my faith and how training all those years helped me pull me through some very dark periods, as well as, how it basically built me from the ground up to deal with what has happened in life. And I hope it's a very inspirational story for people. The second book is definitely all about training from a natural perspective, and that will have a lot of detail, and a lot of it born from experience. As I mentioned, I have 43 years of experience as a trainer and a training person. I have a degree in lab medicine. I have multi-titles in bodybuilding, and I just love the sport. I'm passionate about it. I've been doing it my whole adult life, and I don't see myself, even though I just turned 60, I don't see myself ever stopping. And I hope that you will take it on from that same perspective. Take it on as a lifelong habit, and you will love it and you won't regret it. Don't make it a hardship, like it's something you have to do. Make it something you want to do. Okay? Anyways, my name is Perry Larrabee. This is the way it is naturally. I want you to get out there and train hard, train Bull Fierce. Till the next time, God bless.